Here at River Falls, Wisconsin, after the University of St. Thomas defeated Wisconsin River Falls 25-7. I'm Pat Coleman for D3Football.com, joined by Glenn Caruso, the St. Thomas head coach. And Coach, I'd say for about the first 15 minutes and the last 20 minutes it was all right, and in between it was pretty ugly.
Pretty gross, yeah, no question about it. It was probably, to be very frank with you, it was probably the ugliest game we played in 2 years, but I learned a lot of things. We'll deal with that in film work tomorrow, but you got to enjoy every win. It certainly was not pretty by any stretch, but a 3-score win. I thought that was a very tough football team. We knew they were tough when we watched them from last week, and how they played St. John's, and not real happy with our lack of productivity, predominantly on the offensive side. We'll get it cleaned up.
River Falls a very different team than from when you guys played them last year. I think they threw the ball about 75,000 times. And tonight, Ryan Kuselek looked not as good as he did running the ball last week. I know you were here when they played St. John's.
Yeah, and that kid's a real good competitor. I've said that. I think he's a real neat quarterback. Reminds me a lot of our types of kids. Maybe a shorter guy, chip on his shoulder, very competitive. But you're right, completely different game plan than last year. We thought at the beginning of the game that they were going to be content to really shrink the game. And they did that for about a quarter and a half, and then unfortunately for our offense, we ended up having a few issues in the red zone and just let them hang around too long. That's not usually something that we do, but we did, and that's why you went ugly.
You guys played without Brenton Braddock tonight.
Yeah.
You played without Dan Ferrazzo in the first week. He was back tonight. Do you think Braddock will be back?
Yeah, he'll be back next week.
And so Kaiser gets the start for you guys and has a little trouble hanging onto the football.
Yeah, that was very unimpressive, especially when a guy gets his opportunity to be in the number one role, and then all of a sudden he coughs up the ball the 2 times he did. And honestly, he didn't even run the ball as confidently in this game, I think, as we've seen him run in the past. Ran very confidently in the national championship game last year and in our playoff run. But I'll tell you what, Nick Waldvogel went in and really gave us a spark, and that's kind of the spark we needed.
He came in midway through the third quarter on that third quarter touchdown drive. He had, can I ask you to stay, because you're in the, sorry about that. He had 4 rushes for 26 yards and a 19-yard catch, and ended up with the touchdown that kind of at least gave you some breathing room.
It did, and even though we weren't playing well, we certainly still felt comfortable before that touchdown because of how well our defense was playing. But he got some tough runs there, some tough yards that really weren't there, and he's a wiggly little guy, and as a freshman, I think he's gonna really show up this year, and just happy that we have him for 3 more after that.
It seemed like the River Falls secondary really, very physical tonight, really took it to your guys.
Well, I wouldn't say took it to our guys. I would say that
they knocked it. Well, they knocked out a couple balls that were first down catches.
They certainly knocked one down. There's no doubt. They were very aggressive when the ball was in the air, to the point where there were no flags coming out, but it was a very aggressive style when the ball was in the air, and credit them for doing that. I think the second half we probably matched that aggression, and that's why you saw the spark.
And all the holding calls for you guys. I mean, how do you feel about that? I
know what?
That's not a great question, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean, and I will refrain from commenting at this time. And I think you know what I mean.
Fair enough. So let's see. Matt O'Connell, 19 of 39 passing. A little bit better in the fourth quarter. Came alive a little bit. Seemed like the second quarter was a real struggle for him, and maybe the third quarter too.
Especially that second quarter was big. He just wasn't throwing the ball crisp. We had a few protection breakdowns, 2 fairly big ones that flushed him out of the pocket, and it took him more than a quarter to kind of get back in that rhythm where he was stepping up into it. But even when we were getting to the edge on some of our rollout things, just the timing wasn't exactly there. And you can say all you want about a short week, but you know what? That team we just played on a short week too, and we have to find ways to be more efficient with our practice time in those short weeks.
Played in a short week, and also played on grass. That's fairly unusual in this day and age in Division III.
It is, no question, but I don't think that really had much to do with it. I mean, both teams played on grass, and we were able to practice on grass. Fortunately, we have both turf and grass to practice on, so I don't think that was a real big deal.
And just give me your general state of the Tommies after 2 games. What do you think?
Pretty happy. I'm very happy that we have a lot of key guys that have been out, especially on the offense. 5 starters out in the last 2 weeks, 3 out in the first game, 2 out in this game. And when, much like last year, it's not nearly as bad as the injury situation was last year, but when these younger guys, and some of them are actually freshmen, as you saw tonight, have their chance to step up, they're making plays. Also, a couple guys like Kevin Metzler. I mean, we mentioned Nick Waldvogel, and he certainly sparked us. But you know what? Kevin Metzler came in, had a bunch of tackles and 2 sacks.
Big sack at the
huge sack, and a really big sack in the third quarter, too, which put him out of field goal range when they were fairly close within 2 scores. So Kevin is playing at a very high level, and I'm happy because he's waited 3 years to get his opportunity. workman all the way through, and he did a pretty nice job.
It's Glenn Caruso, the head coach of St. Thomas. His team defeated University of Wisconsin River Falls tonight, 25-7.